We lost a good one, Len.
We did.
We did. R.I.P. Thank you, ABC 212. Yeah. Friends and enemies, thank you for indulging us that moment of silence for a true OG. Gone too soon. Peanut, rest in peace, my brother. May you get that nut in the heaven above. My name's Joey. That's Len. Big week this week. What do you think? Couple things going on.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but whatever it is, strap yourself, enjoy, because the next 48 hours, actually maybe a little bit longer than that, it's going to be nuts. There's no way we're going to know this in 24, a little bit over 24. I suspect probably not 48. There's going to be some delays, you know, the way things are.
Really?
I'm just going based off history. Like, this shit tends to take a little bit longer than what it should. You know, the country, like the United States, with all the resources that it has at its disposal, should be able to resolve an election like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you go in, you cast your ballot, and you go home. El Salvador does it really quick.
Well, then, as we know, they're cheating. So that's why the election's not done the first night. The only reason the election is ever not done on the first night is because of cheating. And anyone who doesn't understand that, enjoy life with a helmet on. Let's talk about the sponsors, then we'll get into a bunch of stuff here tonight. First of all, EasyDNS, best place for you to buy, port, host a domain. Mark is your friendly neighborhood registrar. He's got everything there that you need. Virtual private server stuff, no problem. Domain, sure. Protect your domain, no problem. You want to do some Bitcoin stuff, nodes, NASA relays, he's got you. No matter what you want, he's got your back. Simple to use interfaces like the WordPress that we use for our website, where I write things once every 2 months for 3 days in a row and then not again for another quarter. Also, Len, money back guarantee. If you don't like the service, I mean, it's probably you, not him. But let's say even if you are, a guy rubbing two brain cells together and can't figure out how to run your own website, Mark will just give you your money back. He's not worried. He's not looking for a testimonial. He's just looking to give you the services you need at a reasonable price. And that reasonable price is even cheaper with our promo code, 50% off your first round of buys. You can't beat that. You can't beat that. So go load up the cart, patronize the sponsor. Mark's a friend of ours, friend of the show, fellow Wayside board member at this point as well. We're looking forward to continuing to work with him. And we know that you guys are using EasyDNS for all your registrar and DNS needs. Who's the second sponsor?
It's Bull Bitcoin. And sorry, I'm still trying to gather my thoughts for what happened with the execution of those two little furry. It's still kind of
shaking up.
Yeah, I know. Focus. Bull Bitcoin, a great place to buy and sell your Bitcoin. The price, hey, 67,000. So maybe it's a good time to buy, considering we were over 70,000 just a little while ago. But either way, you could buy on chain, you could buy through Lightning. I just checked my node, and 2 sats per VByte. On chain is the way to go. That's the last block that was mined. Buy Bitcoin 100%, Joey, because if you do that, it's the way to go, and you can learn how to use cold storage and whole 9 yards, but also learn how to do Lightning purchases and Lightning sales, because eventually there's going to come a point in time where fees are going to go very, very high, and you want to learn and you want to know how to do that. But Bull Bitcoin has you covered. They'll help you sell and help you buy using Lightning as well. You could buy gift cards with them, which is one way you can start spending the Bitcoin and spend it in the real world. That's a really cool thing to do. So if you want to go to, say, Home Depot or to Starbucks or whatever, get that Grande Venti or whatever they got at Starbucks, I have no idea. You could do that sort of with your Bitcoin by buying those gift cards, but also you could spend your Bitcoin in other ways by paying bills. Look, everybody's got bills to pay. Nobody's got around this. If you have, let me know, because then you basically solve the secret of life. But for people like me and you, Joey, that have to pay bills on a monthly basis,
schmucks like us, yeah,
we are schmucks. Well, one thing you could do is you could use Bull Bitcoin to help facilitate pay those bills with your Bitcoin. Look, you bought Bitcoin a long time ago when it's 10, 15, 20,000, 30,000, whatever it is. Now it's 67. Why not start spending it? And how you can start spending it by paying some of the bills that you have accumulated. Maybe you've been negligent at paying them because you've been stacking too hard in the past little while. Whatever it is, they got you covered. Check them out. Open an account if you haven't done so. Use our promo code, and $21 will be added to your account after you provide all the necessary information and fund your account.
You'd love to see it. Third sponsor, Decentral Technologies. Len shared with me before we went live that Jonathan sent him a picture of the CBP bid axe. Can we share it? Do you have it?
Yeah, I could.
See if you can put it up on the screen. If you haven't ordered one yet, there might be a few left. I have no idea, but they're coming, and they are hot shit. Let me tell you. Among other things, you can get CBP bid axe. You can get a different kind of bid axe, branded, unbranded, a number of different setups, number of different configurations. You want to heat your home? No problem. John's got you. You want to mine in your garage? No problem. John's got you. That is so sick.
So that's one.
I don't know. What else can we do? You want to
That's the back of it.
Stuff? No problem. That's great. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Very cool stuff.
All right, get off the screen. It's not, man. Best in class, best in silo sponsor, just like the other two. You want to mine in a way that upsets your wife? No problem. You want to mine in a way that will let your infant child remain asleep. Some damage in the future. He's got your back there. Anything you need. You need repairs. You just want some support, some help with stuff. Man, they sell all sorts of interesting things related to mining. And I think that a year ago, we would have said this was trinket kind of stuff. Now, at least on this program, we are pro decentralization of mining. We are pro the proliferation of home mining. We are pro getting this stuff into the hands of the plebs. So head over, no promo code. Tell them we sent you. Buy some mining stuff, man. Get your hash on, get the hash rate up, and let's get the mining decentralization going. Get it out of the hands of the huts and riots and marathons, and into the hands of the CBP faithful here.
They're getting to be awfully large. I'm not sure if you've been following them, but like Marathon, around 40 exahash per second. Riot just keeps getting bigger. Clean Spark picked up Grid last week. They're, geez, man. Yeah,
it's an uphill battle. We got to keep fighting.
Yeah, it's a decentralized network. Anybody could join and leave whenever they want, but it's a good thing if we do that as plebs. We each do our part.
Totally. All right.
Want to do some boosts?
We ought to, yeah.
All right, still trying to gather my thoughts. Some guy named user 301 and a bunch of numbers. I wish I could give you proper credit by naming your specific name, but either way, 210 sats. He says, great show. Please interview libertarian economist Matt Zwolinski on Hayek's support for UBI.
Huh. What's the name? Is the name there?
Matt Zwolinski.
I mean, I'm down for that. I'll talk to chat. I'll talk to anybody, and happy to get him on. If someone wants to message him on Twitter, one of you guys watching or listening, and tell him to hit me up, or I'll try and find him.
But it has to wait a little while because you're going to be.
See that snot coming out of my nose in 4K? That was really something. What else we got on the boost?
I used to show. I'm going to go on a tangent here. I used to show my wife the pictures of slow motion sneezing. She hated to see that on. You see the lips flapping and everything.
Love it. I love it.
Anyways, wartime. 3 different submissions of 333 sats for 999. One is a heart. One is a happy face with a couple of beer mugs doing cheers.
Yeah.
And a third one he writes in going hard into paint, and he starts laughing.
Nice. Waka Flocka. I love me some old Waka Flocka.
So I wanted to give him credit. He did it 3 different times, so I appreciate that.
That's great. Love it.
Peavine Ridge Farms, 1,000 sats. Man, inheritance tax is evil.
Yeah.
The higher the tax, the more family farms are destroyed. Then it'll be all owned by mega corporations or the state, depending on how communist things get.
So this is in reference to, I think, something Ben, is that a Ben Rabideau episode boost?
Yes.
So Ben at the end of the show did say that he was a fan of the inheritance tax. And, I am a huge naysayer when it comes to that kind of thing, because I think, families who make good decisions for generations and generations and enjoy the compounding benefits of those decisions, that's the kind of family you want to encourage in your society, whether that family's got 10 million, 1 million, 100,000, whatever dollars. Taxing inheritances discourages that sort of behavior, instead encourages consumption, spending, and, in my opinion, other frivolous behaviors. Those are not Ben's opinions, but they are mine. Inheritance taxes, like many other things, will always start at the high end and creep down, either because of pressures from beneath vis-a-vis inflation or pressures from above vis-a-vis the government and the tax man and the demands of people who have less. So I could not disagree more with Ben on that. I'm glad that we have a comment there from Peavine Ridge. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to do taxes that way, because you're still taxing good decision making. You're disincentivizing behavior that you should want to incentivize in your society. That behavior is not necessarily the amassing of wealth, right? That's what proponents of that tax would say. The behavior is actually generational thinking. That's what the behavior that's being disincentivized is, and people need to realize that, I think.
Well, I have not gone through this process before, so I don't know. I just learned right now that there's no inheritance tax in Canada, at least from what I'm reading here.
There's not.
I'm actually shocked there is, but in the United States there is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the percentage is in the US? Because I'm not sure. I mean, I'll pull it up right now.
I'm not sure either. It probably relies on a number of different things. There's different state to state. I don't know. But the point remains, though, that we should never settle for, oh, it's only a 5% inheritance tax. Oh, it's only a 10% inheritance tax. No. You see this happening all over the place. Your primary residence is the next big domino to fall, I think. You're going to start to pay a tax on your primary residence at the time of sale.
Well,
that's the next big one to come. The domino after that, what is it? What's the rate?
Federally, because I didn't want to go for every state. Federally,
okay.
It's 13.6 million is the exemption. Anything above that, you're going to be taxed. Anything below that, you are not. So, I mean, I'm not going to say it's good or bad. It's high, it's low. That is what it is, factually. And it's
who values the assets.
Good question. IRS, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, fuck them. That's crazy. No one. The whole point. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again now because I'm feeling spicy yet again this week. The whole point of realizing gains before you pay taxes is that the market gets to set a value on which you are taxed. When someone imagines what the value is before you sell, they're not willing to buy that asset off you at that price. These fucking people just want your money. They just want to crush you. They want you to have no upward mobility. They want to be able to say that they helped with the tax regime. Fuck them, man.
Well, the yacht from the Zelensky doesn't get bought by itself. This shit has to get
exactly.
Somehow,
I know,
right?
that Ukraine fund has to fucking get. We've only been on for 13 minutes. I'm already absolutely flying. So let's go. Keep going.
The North Star Weld Service, 5,000 sats. He writes in, if you noticed a slight bump in the hash rate, which it went up quite a bit, by the way, you're welcome. He plugged in his S9 recently as the season of heating has begun, and his workshop benefits from 1,500 watts of heat. Written off as a business expense, of course. The byproduct of KYC free sats gets sent to a wallet for future generations.
Genius.
I like that. He's don't want to say that.
So can we heat? Like, can I heat the studio? Like, we have some tax benefits running businesses that use our house. Can I put a miner in here and claim that it's can I? Is that allowed?
If you're heating the home with a heater, and percentage of your electricity is tax deductible, why not? Why the heck not?
It's a good point.
Yeah. And
if think more about this.
Once you reach your threshold for what you're going to be doing for tax exempt, or for just run a cable from the neighbor's house. And then once they find out, go to the next neighbor. Just keep running. Right? It's not that bad. So anyways, this Wednesday, we are going to have Goomba come on. I've confirmed
Goomba.
He's coming. Last time, for whatever reason,
time zones. His claim was that he didn't know what time zone.
I was telling him Eastern every time, and even at the same day, I reminded him his Eastern zone. Anyways, he'll be back on Wednesday. Yeah, he'll be on Wednesday, not back. First time on Wednesday. So
we're looking forward to that. Last week, as I mentioned during the boost, Ben Rabideau was on. Great guest. Ben's a real heavy in the real estate / immigration / ongoing frictions between policy and outcome in terms of a number of different things in Canada recently. So very, very, very happy that he came on. We'd love to have him back. I think you guys will enjoy that episode. His audio is pretty clean, like 85% clean, but he was having a bit of a connection problem where he was. All that said, it's still worth a listen. You guys will enjoy that quite a bit, even if you disagree with some of the things he said, like inheritance taxes. Maybe you'll disagree with that, but very good. I will mention again, this is my last show, CBP.
But we're doing AOE
Access of Easy Thursday. I'll be doing it with you. And after that, I'll be gone for, I would guess, 4 weeks maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, TBD. See
I
how
think
things
the
go.
AOE will have to come on for the early one because the replacement can't do that one show. Right?
When is it? What, the Thanksgiving show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll find some time. I even thought about sending in my uncle. Mark's in the chat right now. My uncle actually works in tech. He's like a very, he's much more competent by default by nature than I am in that domain. But he may not have the charisma. Certainly does not have the good looks. But we'll talk about that. We'll figure it out. Anyway, that's it for housekeeping. I think. Do you want to get rolling here? We should know. We're going to try and cut this around 8:30 since Elon decided yet again he's going to run a big space tonight. So we're going to head out a bit earlier than usual, maybe 15 minutes or so. And try and get everyone to listen to what Elon has to say the night before the big day. Should we start with that? You want to start with the election? Do you want to talk about that at all?
Do you want to talk about it? I don't think there's really much to say.
Prediction?
How much could we add to this?
Who you got? Let's just do a who you got.
As a winner?
Yeah.
I'm going to go slight favorite Trump. Just slight.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I think that Kamala Harris still has a fighting chance, even though everything is showing no. But I think there's a fighting chance that she could come out on top one way or another.
Interesting.
By hook
Okay.
or by crook.
Huh. Give me Kamala by a slight bit.
Whoa, see, we're like almost on the same side.
I think that she's gonna win.
She's gonna get her state. She's gonna get like California. She's gonna get New York.
There's no doubt, right? Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Florida, maybe. I'm guessing like it's a purple state these days, right? So maybe Texas. No, unfortunately for her, and there's a lot of so
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just the Can't Bench 225. So I think she's gonna get like a lot of the states that she's gonna, Washington, shit like that.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna
I think anything is possible. Like I said in the intro there, these are my words, not yours. There's cheating going on anytime the election can't be completed in one night in a modern economy. If I can pick up a phone and get a dial tone, then that economy needs to be able to count the votes in one night. And if they can't, then it's cheating. And that's all there is to it. And so I think that the left cheats better than the right. That's my personal view.
I don't want to go down that stuff, but I will want to say you heard Trump on Rogan, I would assume, right?
I listened to it, yeah.
And I listened to it as well. In fact, that was one of the few episodes from Rogan I actually listened to in my life. And one thing that came out, because I listened to the audio, Trump sounds old. I know he's 78-ish.
I think they're leaning into that.
I don't know if anybody's. It comes off like he's older, right? Like when people get older, their voice changes, the way they speak changes, and he's going through all these characteristical changes that happen when you get older. But it's hitting on like, man, the guy is older. Might have a lot of energy. Might not have to.
I think that's something the campaign is actually trying to embrace. And I think the reason they're putting him on these shows, at least in part, is because the really only line of attack that the left has at this point is that this guy is a Nazi sympathizer, Hitler enthusiast, racist, misogynist, I don't know, xenophobe, whatever, right? Pick your sort of word. The only way to dispel those rumors is to put him in front of a mic and have him talk for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in the case of Rogan. And you see pretty quickly that he's not any of those things. You may disagree with his policy positions. You may think his style may leave you wanting in terms of finesse, but broadly, seems like a decent guy. He's a decent family man, at least now. Obviously he had some indiscretions when he was a little younger, but leaving that aside for now, cast the first stone, et cetera, et cetera. That's, I think, something the campaign is trying to do to soften his image. And I think when people talk about this sort of elderly sort of lisp he's developing, it's conducive to that and that mission, if that's what they're trying to do. That's one thing. The other thing I think is even more likely is that he's weak on the woman vote, the female vote. And I really have this feeling, no one's ever told me this, and I've not heard this anywhere else, but I really have this feeling that by going on these podcasts that are very clearly predominantly like right-wing young men on the podcast, in the viewership, I should say, he's actually trying to get into the ears of the girlfriends and wives of those guys over the course of, a month, 2 months, whatever. The Nelk boys, the Barstool guys, Rogan, over and over again. I think about me, right? I walk around the house with my phone playing, or I'm playing it through the Sonos speaker or whatever, the podcast, playing it while I'm doing stuff upstairs, or like if I'm making shorts for the show, right? I'll have my phone, especially on like a Saturday morning, and my wife will hear it. And it's funny. She just asked me if I listened to Trump, the interview in full. And she said, after I heard a bit of that, I went and listened to the Vance one a little bit, and he sounds even smarter. My wife would never have done that 4 years ago, certainly not 8 years ago. And now she would prefer that candidate. That may be a mix of us living together and being married. But I think that there's a real chance that part of the strategy is we have to get into the ears of this demographic. And the only way to do it is to have these conservative 20 to 35-year-old men pumping these podcasts in their house until it gets through. And you got to figure, if you get through to 2 women out of every 8, 9, whatever, however many in the group chat with the girls, maybe you get through to 1 more, 2 more. And before you know it, like you kind of have some traction there, right? I would love to hear someone from that campaign, especially if they win, tell me what the strategy was, because it's definitely not to win over guys you're already going to get to vote for you for sure. It's something else. And I think it's that second piece. I really feel pretty good about that guess.
It's free publicity, Joey. How many listens does Joe Rogan?
Oh, he gets ton. But the question is, in an election, how many people who are not already going to vote for you are going to listen? It's a lot of time to spend doing that stuff, and you take a lot of shit from the media. Like it's one thing for them to cut up a 10-minute stump speech. There's enough of those clips out there, but to do 10 or 11 hours with 3 or 4 different shows, that's unlimited firepower for a corrupt media regime. And
they're gonna deal with. They'll be throwing those shots in their own little universe. This is entering a different world altogether, different universe. This is the podcasting world. We're dealing with a whole new set of folks that listen to it. He's not paying to get on. They simply asked and he obliged, and he's able then to get all these listeners that know him, listen to him before, but it's just more free publicity for him. And he got 3 hours on Rogan. I have no idea what he got on Barstool. I never listened to that one.
Did an hour or so on Barstool. There's one other one. The Nelk Boys one he did was pretty good too. He did Theo Vaughn. That was pretty good.
Well, 3 hours on Rogan, and to just circle back to my point about him sounding old, through that whole interview, 3 hours, he was coherent. He was energetic. He was with it. You know what the best thing is too? Like, he knows stuff about what Rogan was talking about, the fight stuff. I mean, I follow athletics, but I didn't know some of that stuff. I didn't prepare for a Rogan interview, but still, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. You could tell like he sort of enjoys it. He doesn't have the same type of pedigree that Rogan has with knowledge, but he has some. So he's within his element. So it's not really a bad thing to go out there. Instead of doing another campaign stop like Michigan or whatever, just do this. It's low energy in terms of taking away from him. And in fact, he had to leave early, right? At the very end, he had to cut it short because he had to go to. So he could have went for longer. Either way, the one thing that I kind of am disappointed, there was no discussion of Bitcoin really on that Rogan talk. I wish they sort of dived into that, because Rogan seems to be more learning about it, talking about it, and it would have been a good opportunity to discuss it. But given that he said he wants to have one of these national strategic reserves with Bitcoin, talk about it a little bit more. Let's hear about him. I don't want to hear about World Liberty Financial, where the fuck that thing is.
Well, I mean, this is my big concern with Trump, is that I see a lot of people talking about how he's put a really good team around him this time. But then I think, would a really good team, ever launch a shitcoin in the month before an election? I don't know. Probably not. It's a bit concerning for me, I think. But I mean, broadly speaking, he's the candidate I would prefer to win. And actually, I want to make a recommendation, which I don't often do on the show. But Chris Irons, friend of the show, we had him on earlier this year, released a podcast today. I listened to all his stuff. I think he's a pretty good thinker, a little rough around the edges, which I really like about him. He's at his best when he's doing a solo podcast. And he released one today on the differences between the right and the left in the American context. And I gotta say, Len, I have never agreed with somebody on a podcast on basically everything they've said over the course of an hour, and I was just nodding along the entire time. He absolutely fucking nailed it. That there's just clearly one party who is in a better position to move the country in a direction that it needs to go. domestically and in terms of its relationship with foreign powers. And it's just not the Democrats. The question is, will it matter? You know, I that's the big question. Part of me says that if they lose, if Kamala wins on the tomorrow night, I should say, I was going to say during the election, but if he wins tomorrow night, or if she wins tomorrow night, the next candidate that the Republicans run, you're going to be wishing you had JD Vance running if you were a liberal. The next guy that runs is going to be like extreme, and it's going to be deserved. You know, whatever that candidate ends up having as a platform, it's going to be deserved. The Americans have gone way too far one direction here. They're lying, cheating, and stealing at every turn. I mean, you're not saying this. I'll say it. Obama, who is revered as like a, you know, outstanding statesman, he's a fucking clown. He's on the podium spitting out the same fucking nonsense that's been debunked a million times about the very fine people. Like, what a fucking loser. These people are just fucking losers on that side of the aisle. They're ugly. They're fat. They don't take care of themselves. They care about the wrong things. They want handouts. They want drugs. They want degeneracy. If you want that, go for it. But it is a mistake to go that direction if you're the states. It is a mistake for an individual to go that direction. It is a mistake for a state. It is a mistake for a nation. And it's a mistake that you have the results of already. It's not hypothetical. Look at San Francisco. Chris said this in his podcast too. Look at San Francisco. Look at you and me. We do the Chicago segment every week. You know, there's never a segment about Houston, Texas, or like any of these really right-leaning or even purple states. It's the ones that are overrun by bad left policy. There's no doubt about what the right decision is. The only doubt is whether enough Americans are dumb enough to make it again. And I hate to say that. I have some American friends. There's a lot of American listeners to this show, but that's just the fact of the matter. That's where I stand on the election. I hope that Trump is able to pull it out, but I wouldn't bet on it, honestly.
It doesn't really matter in the end. That's sad reality.
Yeah.
Just
Darius Dale did a great. I mean, I'll talk about this for a second here because I do want to talk about a fourth turning thing. Darius Dale had a couple of great slides on this on Macro Voices on the weekend. You can go to the Macro Voices website and look at them if you want. But the big one is to your point, Len, and this is a point that a lot of Bitcoiners make. It doesn't matter who wins that election. Do you know, actually, it's more likely in terms of historical mean, even if you take away the last year of Trump's recent presidency, thanks to the COVID stimulus, it's more likely that a Republican president will run up the deficit more than a Democratic president.
Okay. I'm not shocked by that, but
it's crazy going way, way back. And then I just want to know one other thing about that election and fourth turnings and whatnot. Part of me says that if Trump wins, it'll be a delivered victory by the political elite, both in the U.S. and abroad, because the U.S. is in the middle of a fourth turning. Again, I'm going to point to these Darius Dale slides. I'll just share my screen here for people on video. This really blew my socks off when I heard it. And I very rarely actually go to the research that Macro Voices guests bring to the podcast. I just listen and try and take it all in. But this is like an incredibly damning chart. And I don't know if you can make this out. Hopefully you can. But it's, you know, the start to trough change in U.S. sovereign fiscal balance during two previous fourth turnings, one World War II, one in the Civil War. Civil War was 9.5%. World War II was 28.5%. And right now we're at 11.5%. That's in the sovereign fiscal balance to GDP. And then the other one is the start to peak change in U.S. sovereign debt to GDP. Civil War was 27%. World War II was 103%. And now we're at 68, almost 69%. Like you're past the point of no return in a lot of ways. And I think that there's at least some possibility that you're walking into, and actually Mark, who's in the chat, has said this before too, on our show, I think on his own show on Bomb Thrower, that you're in basically the last election or second last election this cycle, regardless of who wins. Just because
I don't even know what the cycle is. So maybe you're right.
Well, you're in the last, like this is the last or second last election cycle is what I mean. You're going to vote for the president this time, maybe one more time, and never again.
Oh, okay. So you think you're going to take away the ability to?
It's hard to say, at least in the current form.
I just wanted to go back. You were saying that Republicans would most likely run up the deficit, and that may be true. But I just want to state one thing: the last time that the federal books were balanced, I'm going based off memory, so it could be wrong.
Clinton.
No, it was George Bush. The George
George W. Really?
Yes, it was, and I believe it could be wrong. Correct me if so. That was the last time it was done. So, and it's I'm not going to say that it's Republican. I just think everything aligned perfectly. Just that's the way things are. It's just the world has to be in a certain direction. Just like Clinton probably balanced them too, just because the communists fell and opened up new markets and so forth. But I don't know. I think it'd be pretty drastic to see if they're going to take away our ability to vote moving forward. And just,
it's not about taking away your ability to vote. It might just change the format of the vote, right? Like there's
electoral colleges or something. I think
maybe, I don't know. Or like the other thing too, and I wrote this today, that people talk about the fourth turning a lot, but the thing that is going to be the catalyst for most normies, you and me talk about the debasement of the currency and financial repression, and like Basel IV is coming. That's going to force banks into like shitty debt because no one's going to want to buy shitty government debt. That's coming next year. But the thing that's going to really be the trigger for a lot of normies is when one of the states secedes from the union. It's got to be coming. It may, if Kamala wins and tries to tell Texas that they can't, produce oil and gas anymore, or tries to tell some right-leaning state that they have to take, 100,000 illegals, like that's going to be a problem. And the states have had it, and the people in those states have had it. They're tired of it, right? And I think that like you're really going down this road where a fourth turning is not just inevitable. It may have already begun.
It has. Like, and I mentioned it today in another chat. The U.S., I could be wrong with my numbers exactly, but rake in federally 4 to 5 trillion in income tax and sales tax and all this bullshit tax.
Yeah.
That's how much they rake in every year, is 4 to 5 trillion.
Yeah.
Just 1 trillion of that is earmarked for servicing the debt, and that number is going up and up. And so everyone's talking about GDP and stuff. What do you do with GDP? Do you tax GDP to 100%? Like you have to. So people are already saying taxes are too high, and you're only raking in $4 to $5 trillion only. That's a huge number, and that covers 20 to 25% of just servicing the debt, and that number continues to go up. This thing is doomed to fail. Eventually, it's going to come to a point where the interest in debt will be much higher than what you're raking in taxes. And then good luck trying to spin that in any way, say that, yeah, we could fucking get out of this. We could work our way out of this. No fucking way. Right now, you can't. It's just, it's the fourth quarter. It's past the 2-minute warning. You're down by 40 points.
Okay.
You got the ball. Yeah, you do. But let's be honest, you're not going to be able to score enough fucking points to make this anywhere close. So good fucking luck. Throw the Hail Mary and see what happens.
Man, I don't know about all this stuff, but I will say that, I'll use the 4-year time frame again. 4 years ago, you couldn't have told me this was going to be the situation we were in. That somehow things would be even more unstable than during the COVID years.
It wasn't because you could look along like the past, even before COVID, the one that I was talking about for a little bit, at least for over listening to me, was the trade deficit. The trade deficit, you couldn't maintain a trade deficit like that year over year and maintain the level of quality of life that you do. Eventually something has to give. When money keeps pouring out, you're just going for cheap goods, devaluing the currency, and eventually you're gonna have to deal with this. It may take a decade or two, but it was that was just brutal.
The brutal too is the trade deficit. I'm reminded here because Metro just said it in the chat. The trade deficit, even in Canada, like you have to start adding energy to that, right? Like our environment minister today talking about capping emissions, like dropping emissions by 30% for oil and gas by 2030. So, like
we'll do the notables, I guess, the first part of this show. We'll transition to Bitcoin.
Sure. Okay.
So you're right. So 33% is the planned cap they want to do on oil and gas. And it's over the next 8 years, Joey. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. And
it was 2030. Almost 5 years.
No, they say over the next 8 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yes, and they're saying that they're going to be spending Ottawa's going to spend about $12 billion on a tax credit. This is going to be trying to encourage those businesses to assist companies to invest in those systems that trap carbon dioxide and return it to underground storage. So 12 billion has been earmarked for this to try to incentivize businesses to capture that carbon and store it underground.
Right.
I'm just saying what it is. I'm not giving any opinion.
It's not a good policy. Like, that's the problem. I'm like leaning forward here. The problem is that it's not a good policy. And you can say whatever you want about global warming, about whether or not it's caused by humans, about, you know, what we should be doing in terms of oil and gas. Demand for oil and gas is not going down. It's going up. The idea that people are going to pay for expensive energy because it's green, especially in the developing world, is nonsense. It's either like stupid or a lie. The idea that Canadians are going to be operating on electric vehicles and whatnot when the winters get down to minus 40 in 3/4 of the country is ridiculous. It's just never going to happen. Shipping, flying, all that stuff, whether it's trucking or by boat or by sea, whatever, it just can't be done on electricity. It has to be done on gas. It has to be done on oil and gas products. And so when I hear stuff like this, part of me says that this guy and this government know it can't be done, but they have to do it to stay on message. But then the other part of me says, and I've said this before, like, there's just no introspection, no reflection, and no plans on losing at the top of the food chain for that party for the moment. And I mean, that's worrying for a number of reasons, but like, you be the judge, you know. Is it a good thing for oil and gas companies to have to do this? Because you're going to need more oil and gas, so they're just going to charge you more if they have to pay for carbon sequestering and carbon neutrality and carbon capture and all this stuff. It doesn't work. And so, you know, back to my earlier point about the sort of balkanization of the United States, right? Like, what's stopping Alberta from saying, yeah, we're not doing this, and we're going to stop giving the equalization payments, and we're going to stop funding Quebec's pension, education, and healthcare? Good luck. You know, get the windmills to pay for it. Like, what's stopping them? At some point, the productive parts of the country are just going to say no more, no mas, basta, as the Italians would say.
If they do that, then they're no longer part of the Dominion, and
that's right. That's right.
That's a.
But could you run a state of, you know, how many people are in Alberta? 5 million, 6 million? I don't know, something like that. Like, right. Can you run 6 million people if you go all in on ONG? I don't know, maybe. You know, will you have a little burgeoning financial sector there after 10 years? Will you have all that stuff? Maybe you might.
Look at the Middle East. There's like countries like Oman.
Exactly.
Like, how big are
the
they?
Richest the richest in the world. You know, are
but the one thing,
oil and gas.
With respect to the oil and gas, I mean, one can make an argument. I'm not saying I am, but one can make an argument that when doing one of these things, these type of ideas of trying to lower the amount of emissions, is you're trying to hinder one of the strengths of Canada.
Yeah.
Is that Canada has a number of strengths in that we have a lot of natural resources, fresh water, uranium, even wheat. Like, it just goes on and on.
But they only look. Okay, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. So I was just trying to say, like, you're just hindering that. Like, why not try to amplify that rather than try to hide it and try to not bring it to market? I mean, that's an argument one can make.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is, I always hear this argument that Canada is rich in natural resources. Well, they're no good if they're just in fucking paintings. Like, you have to actually use them. Okay. You have to actually use the uranium. You actually have to nuclearize your grid. Yeah. You actually have to use the oil and gas, use the forestry, use the LNG, but we don't use any of it. We refuse, you know, we instead are like determined to die this slow grinding death that, by the way, again, not hypothetical. Look over at Europe, you know, like, we can see what happens when you commit energy seppuku or whatever the Japanese samurais do. Like, when you do this, it's not a mystery what happens to your society, what happens to your standard of living, your costs, your grid reliability. You know, you think the healthcare system's overloaded now. Wait till they have to run on fucking batteries. You know, like, wait for that to happen. You think your kid's school's you know, air conditioning is shoddy now. Just wait. It's only going to get worse. You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah,
you know
Ontario's embracing a nuclear.
Ontario's nuclear, but the rest of the country is not, and seems to be in no way interested in going that direction. At least if you listen to the messaging from the feds, right? There's no talk about increased nuclear. It's all renewables. It's all green. It's all wind and solar. The shit doesn't work. The shit doesn't work. And like, the sooner people realize this, again, the other part of me especially about the election, okay? maybe the stove needs to be hotter. I can already see that people are not really worried about touching it. And I think that there's at least some possibility that we need to really turn the fucking heat up on that thing and stick people's hands on it and hold them there until they realize that what they're doing is causing problems for them and for everybody else. And it's not just about, limousine liberal beliefs. And I'm not saying liberal party, limousine liberal in the traditional sense, right? It's more about how are we going to position ourselves pragmatically for a changing global order where our next door neighbor is probably not going to be the dominant superpower in 15 years. Like what is the plan for that? Because if we don't have one, we're in a little bit of trouble.
I'm going to go even a little bit further in that. And for everybody listening and watching, it's not we, it's you.
Yeah.
Realistically, make a plan.
Yeah, you need a plan. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. You need a plan for your wealth, for your family. You need to be agile, all that stuff. Big time. Yeah.
And hypothetically, if you don't have to execute that plan, great. Because then things didn't get to the point where you had to execute it. But if you do it, at least you are further ahead than somebody who hasn't. So start making those plans, figuring things out. Because when the time comes, you're going to be happy you have at least thought it out and it started the emotions of doing whatever.
Totally.
One thing I'll have to say one thing too. I've learned something recently that at least right now in Canada, there's an exit tax, right? But the exit tax does not apply to the sale of a primary residence. So
Whoop-de-doo.
So I'm just saying right now, the way things are currently, the way the laws are, if you are to sell a home and leave Canada, the proceeds from the sale of said home, primary residence, is not subjected to an exit tax. A lot of people, that is the majority of their wealth. Just food for thought more than anything else. It's something I've learned not too long ago.
For now.
Yeah. I just want to bring up,
and like capital controls. Okay, this is another thing. Capital controls. When I hear exit tax, it kind of like gives me a pain in my stomach because it's like this fake win that the government gives you. Oh, there's no exit tax, don't worry about it. Or there's no tax on your primary, don't worry about it. Yeah, but they tax you at 50 or 60% on literally every fucking thing else and give you nothing for it. So like it's like, yeah, the exit tax, great. I don't get taxed when I leave. They already have all my money by the time I leave, like it's crazy that we accept this and just say, you know what? It's all good. Let's just keep it going here. There's this really, really thin veil still for a lot of Canadians that this is the best country in the world to live in. It has the potential to be the best country, but it's probably not even top 20 right now. Even though we pay among the highest tax in the world and we pay our elected officials, I think the highest in the world too.
I'd still say it's top 20 right now. It's still very safe. You can get a job for the most part, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going for Canada right now that a lot of countries don't have.
Yeah.
And if you're living in the other countries, you look at it and say, shit, things are pretty fucking bad. And Canada
GDP per capita to match Alabama, right? I think.
But United States is United States. I think that would be the top of the food chain or close to it. So if we are slightly worse than the worst that they have to offer, that's still not too shabby. You're free to travel within Canada. You're free to travel outside of Canada. There's a lot you could do. Like, and I know people are gonna probably bite my head off at this, but fuck, like it is not too bad. But I saw some of those videos.
Yeah,
but it is like in a lot of cases getting worse. Because I just want to like bring up one story, for instance, Joey. This is one that encapsulates what's going on. It's a homeless camp that was discovered by Edmonton police. And this homeless camp is quite polished considering the circumstances because they have over there in this it's like a gated community. And I'm not fucking kidding because when you go there, there's actually gates you have to open up. It's camouflage and everything. They have mini power grid over there, solar panels, home appliances, the whole 9 yards. They have multi-level structures, multiple of them. And it's all fenced off by trees and broken branches and shit like that. These guys were so like industrious. They built or they buried 2 generators underground to provide power. So it's hidden.
Yeah.
These guys are like wonderful stuff. And even one of the multi-level structures, it was really well furnished because it had a fireplace in it, a sink with running water, washer, fridge, stovetop, coffee maker,
How
stone
much do you think?
tiles.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Oh, fucking welding equipment. They found welding equipment here. One person was living in that cabin since February. Sorry, since winter of last year. This is Edmonton, Joey, where winters are not but anything but harsh. They're fucking brutal. So it goes to show, this is the stuff it's there. It's probably going to grow because it's difficult to make ends meet in Canada. It's getting difficult by the day. But I just look at that. It's like that is just it encapsulates what everything is going on in Canada right now, I think.
Okay, here's a question for you. All right. So you got a pretty decent sized encampment there, 2 generators, running water, some other amenities. How much do you think it cost those hobos to put that stuff together?
I think some of it might have been stolen. So it's hard to say.
How much what does it cost, do you think? You know, like let's say they do it all above board and you got to put a price tag on all that stuff.
15, 20 grand minimum.
But what's the max? I was going to say like 50 grand, let's say. Let's put it at the top end. It costs $50,000, all the equipment, all the gear. Here's an article from CH News, my hometown newspaper. This is with regard to a city-sanctioned encampment site, new shelter beds from our fearless leader, Andrea Horvath, who knows nothing. Here's a quote from the story. Many community complaints voiced at Wednesday's meeting, this is a while ago, September, observed that many of the proposed temporary solutions would cost the city millions. Are you ready for this? Hope you're sitting down.
Go ahead.
Newly approved encampment site would cost the city $3.9 million annually and $2.8 million upfront. So about $6 million for year one. It would create shelters and washrooms.
Oh, so 3.9 million annually.
Yeah, 3.9 million annually and 2.8 million up front. So 2.8 to start, then 3.9, 3.9.
I'm looking at the running costs, and they're always low. We'll just say
it's going to be higher. It's going to be higher. Yeah.
So how many houses do you have to tax to get to that $4 million?
Depends on where you tax, right? But you know, let's say
the primary revenue from a municipal.
Well, let's say you pay what's your my property tax is pretty high, so I won't use mine. But let's say you pay like $3,000 in property tax, right?
Okay.
Do the math on that. That's what 1,000 houses, something like that. Do I have that number right?
That goes
plus a few more for 4 million.
And then you're also taxing.
And by the way, those 1,000, let's say 1,500 houses you tax. By the way, you're putting the encampment in the park that they can no longer use. How's that?
And potentially devaluing their property.
Oh fuck!
It's nearby.
It's incredible. It's MPAC will never say that, right? It's like this whole thing. This whole thing is a joke. It's a joke, and not to blackpill. I was listening back to some episodes we've done in the last little while, and I'm like, we are blackpilling, me especially, like crazy. But I look around and I just think like everyone here is fucking retarded. Like what are we doing? Constantly making the wrong decisions on every portfolio, every file, every day, over and over and over again. Well, how can this be? What happened? It wasn't like this 15 years ago.
No,
like what changed?
Like this 5 years ago.
What changed? How did this happen? And it happened so fast. Like what is the difference?
COVID came around.
What was the catalyst?
They shut the economy, and
Zoom meetings is the cause. Like that can't be it. What is the cause?
No, a lot of people were stuck at home thinking up new ideas. Like it was the perfect storm, right? Devaluing of the currency because they had quantitative easing, and then people had to have been given CERB or CBA, which is for those who aren't aware, it's essentially money for people that couldn't work or people that have businesses and couldn't open up, so they could still maintain a roof over their head and their businesses didn't go tits up. So this comes from somewhere, and then all this shit, it just makes the problem much bigger.
Yeah,
it existed before. Now it's now it's even bigger. Now I would
have like Horvath or one of the more social media friendly counselors like JP Danko. If you ever want to come on this show, like you're more than welcome. Explain to me what the fuck is going on in City Hall, and explain to me what the fuck is going on in every major city in Ontario at City Hall.
They'll say they have their challenges because they have an influx.
That's all they ever say. That's all they ever say. The fix cannot be like I just described.
They need more resources, but they're not going to get it.
Yeah, of course they're going to tax you to get them, and then people are just going to leave. Right? The Laffer curve is not something to fuck with. If you keep going at this rate, people will fucking leave, and then what?
That's it. It just continues. But this problem existed from the beginning of, I'll say time, but it's been there for a long time. It's now more noticeable.
Yeah.
and it's now hitting you harder because you're getting older.
It's at your
You're seeing
doorstep,
things from
right?
different.
It's at your door. It's at your doorstep. I mean,
Yes.
everyone's seen these videos of the Nelk boys going door to door, asking people if they support Harris and her policies and get the signature. And then they bring in the bus full of Spanish guys. And they're like, yeah, we just brought you. Well, there's only 2 migrants we're going to move in here. You guys only have about 4,000 square feet. So we're just going to move in 2 migrants. And they're just like, no, can't. And then, can they at least stay for dinner? No. Like, okay, man, everyone's for this stuff until it's at your front door. And, quite literally in that case, at your front door, they no longer are interested, right? And I think people now are starting to realize that your front door is a lot closer to the problems than maybe you thought a year ago. But let's see, again, like, not to bring us back to the election next door tomorrow, but how many people are going to make the same mistake?
Well, there are people that are just hardcore red and hardcore blue, no matter
But that's a mistake, right? Like, that's the mistake I'm talking about. Are you really going to do this again because you are so invested? Like, your personality is so vapid, vacant, and full of nonsense that you have to vote on color lines? Like, are we serious about this?
Yeah, people will look at and say they see a female running as, it's time for a female president, regardless if she's
so
the best
true.
candidate
It's
or
so
not.
true. It's so true.
And there's other people that say Trump, look, he's got some he's a little rough around the edges.
He grabs him by the pussy, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
And they don't want that. And she may not have that same type of, he won't be as difficult as with her in the helm than him. So there's vote for, and so there's a lot of different reasons. It just,
none of them are good, by the way.
It's
on both sides. It's on both sides. Like, I would never vote, if Polyev wins, right? Or if Polyev can't, during a debate, deliver a coherent plan on how he's going to reduce deficit, right? Or how he's going to cut immigration, because I haven't heard that from him, then I'm not going to go out and cast a ballot for that guy. Like, I'll just keep voting for Bitcoin with my wallet and thinking about moving jurisdictions with my feet. And that's like all I can do. That's the most competent thing to do now.
The Liberal Party of Canada, to their credit, they have lowered the number of people coming into Canada.
Yeah, but like I said to Ben the other night, that's not really what they're saying. They're not really saying that. They're not really talking about lowering that number. The problem is not lowering the number going forward necessarily. It's making sure that you don't get these people using different avenues, right? You talked about this on this show like 3 weeks ago, the spike in asylum claims from Mexico, the spike in asylum claims overall. If the government follows through with those policies, those claims will go up. And there's international law that governs these things that we don't seem too keen on violating. And so I don't buy that they're going to reduce the number in a big way. The other thing I would say is that the damage to the culture and to the society and to the services and to schools and hospitals and all this other stuff is not necessarily the fault of the immigrants, but the damage that's being done because of the sheer volume, it can't be undone by reducing the number of newcomers coming 3 years from now. Like we have to do something about the people who arrived already, whether it's build and add capacity or remove the people who came. And that's one of the two has to happen. And I don't hear anyone saying that.
They're doing they've not said it directly, but the latter of the two is going to be done because they've said they're not going to be extending temporary former.
We're going to see. We're going to see if they make. We're going to see if they have the resources and the gall.
They won't have the resources to go after them a lot. They're going to hope that voluntarily leave.
Oh,
once your status runs out, though,
it's
just a matter of time. Because as you get in a car and you get stopped for it because there's a light out, then I know this is just one, and you'll never be able to capture everybody. But you're living underground. You're living a tough life. You don't have a social insurance number that starts with, I think it starts with number 9, the one you get with, like, that's like, you don't have one, and employers are looking at what the fuck is this, right? So
the thing is, like sending all those people back, right, would completely torch the GDP number. It'd torch it. GDP per capita, torch it. All this stuff about we're among the top in the G7, G20. Like the branding is too. It's too.
Have you heard about some of these foreign workers coming here and they're working for under minimum wage?
Yeah, of course. That's why there's 20 people living in some of these houses in Brampton. You see on these videos that go up, right? Like,
I'm not sure
nobody wants to live 20. Well, yeah, of course it is. It gets measured somewhere. It gets measured when they spend the money, It gets
But
measured
they're
when they
spending fuck
tax.
all. They make fuck
Yeah, but
all.
Len, yeah, but if there's, well, that's the whole point. GDP per capita is going down because of that, right? That's
Yes.
exactly the point. And so I'm saying it would be even worse. Yeah, sorry. You're right about GDP per capita, but GDP overall, right? You see these projections that we talk about, Freeland talks about all the time. Because they never talk about GDP per capita.
Then they'll just switch narratives rather than talking about GDP. We'll talk about GDP per capita.
Maybe they will. GDP per capita going up. Maybe they'll say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is funny though that like you're at this point now where like something's got to give, right? The narrative is fractured. The voter base doesn't like the policies for any party. Everyone thinks government is too bloated here in the States and Europe, wherever. So I don't know, like what's the fix? This is why Bitcoin is so important, because if you leave your long-term success financially, culturally, with your family, with your friends, with your community to these policymakers, you're fucked. And again, it's not a hypothetical. Look around, have a look here, the States, European countries, Australia, whatever. Okay. You look around. You can't say that things are better now than they were 10 or 15 years ago. You can't.
No country could really say that.
No country can say that. You can't say that families are stronger than they were 15, 20 years ago. You can't. You can't say that schools are better, healthcare is better. You can't say that innovation is happening as quickly. You can't say any of it. What you can say for sure is that everybody wants more of what you got. They want you to be able to do less about it. They want you to be able to talk about it on fewer platforms and without being able to speak freely. They want you to learn in school that everything is fine. And they want you to work at a job that doesn't let you get ahead so that you can actually affect change. And all along the way, you'll be eating Cheerios, consuming widgets from Amazon. And then you die, probably single and maybe without a pet, because that's bad for the climate too. So
they'll euthanize it if you don't have one.
Yeah, exactly. The government will take it and kill it. So Bitcoin, at the very least, puts you into a community of people who are like-minded and takes you out of this black pill, scenario. Super. But more importantly, honestly, more importantly, is that if we're right about this, the financial freedom you will enjoy and your offspring will enjoy and their offspring will enjoy will be immeasurable in terms of the improvement on the mean quality of life 15 years from now, if this continues. Because the slow grind to disaster is unrelenting everywhere in the modern world at this point. It's everywhere. You gotta have a coin, man.
Yeah, you have, definitely.
You gotta.
Taking that money away from the people that control it.
Yeah.
Because they can manipulate it however they want.
And they do. And they do.
Yeah, weaponize it, all that stuff. With Bitcoin, there's only so many. It is a ledger that is transparent. You can look at it. You may not be able to solve everything, but it is there. If you haven't put enough time and resources, you can figure shit out.
For sure.
And when you have it, it's yours, and nobody can take it away from you.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
otherwise, you'd be in the algorithm ghetto, eating Cheerios all day and all night.
It may be a good time to transition to Bitcoin related stories, since we just.
I think it might be. Let's go. Let's do that. If you're on audio, see you tomorrow. If you're on video, Spaces, whatever, there's a couple hundred of you guys. Hang in. Let's keep it rolling here. Let's keep the good times rolling.
And don't be a cock.